Indo-China War of 1962, also called the Sino-Indian War. This video is best suited for the defense aspirants. After World War II, conflict between major nations became rarer. It was in 1950 when India started keeping diplomatic relations with China. Why the 62 war is very important? Because it still shapes the today's relationship between India and China. It is a well-known fact that India never attacks any nation first. The Sino-Indian War was fought between 28 October 1962 to 21st November 1962. The reason of war was boundary disputes. China was claiming sovereignty over two regions of India, Aksai Chin and Arunachal Pradesh. Aksai Chin is a southward extension of Tibetan Plateau. China considers this part of its Xinjiang region. China also constructed a road in the region in 1956-57 to link Tibet and Xinjiang. We'll discuss this topic later in this video. But it is one of the triggering points of the conflict. Let's add up some extra information. In 1914, Britain and Tibet signed the Shimla Agreement. British Foreign Secretary Henry McMahon did not involve China in the Shimla Agreement with Tibet. And it was logical because at that time Tibet was not a part of China, and the result of this agreement was the McMahon Line. Of course, the China rejected it. Even after the Indian independence, the Aksai Chin issue remained unresolved. Now let's jump to the war events. In 1950, China invaded and annexed Tibet. India sent letters to negotiate the issue of Tibet. Very soon, China also deployed its troops near Aksai Chin. India never thought of war with China because our policies were still friendly with China. Cut to 1954. 5 Principles of Peaceful Existence, that is Panchsheel Agreement, was signed. India accepted the Chinese rule in Tibet under the principle of Panchsheel. And that was the time when Nehru gave the slogan, Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai. Then, in 1956, the road construction between Tibet and Xinjiang through Aksai Chin was started. But the another shock for India was when Dalai Lama escaped from Lhasa in 1959 when the city was retaken by the Chinese forces. By city, I meant Tibet. India provided safe accommodations to Dalai Lama, which was not liked by the Chinese leader Mao Zedong. And this was one of the immediate flashpoints of the war. China showed NEFA and Aksai Chin under the Chinese territory in a map in September 1959. By NEFA, I meant Northeast Frontier Agency. China started telling India to withdraw from Aksai Chin. Nehru and Zhou Enlai met in 1960, but the dispute remained unresolved. China, without a warning, attacked India on October 20, 1962, and the war began. Chinese People's Liberation Army, that is PLA, attacked India from two fronts. First, Chipchap Valley in Aksai Chin, that was the Western Theatre. Second, Tawang District in Arunachal Pradesh, that was the Eastern Theatre. Some incidents also occurred around Nathula Pass in Sikkim. India was unable to anticipate China's attack and Indian army wasn't prepared for the war. And because of that, only 20,000 of Indian soldiers had to take fight with 80,000 Chinese soldiers in the war fronts. Chinese forces pushed Indian troops on both the fronts. In Western Theatre, Rezangla was captured by China. Indian troops also withdrew from Daulat Begoldi. In Eastern Theatre, Tawang was also captured by China. PLA was able to enter 16 km into the Indian borders by October 24th. Then the war was on hold because Zhou Enlai wrote a letter to Nehru in which he asked for 4 demands. Number 1. Resettlement of boundaries. Number 2. Both sides had to disengage and withdraw from LAC by 20 kilometers. Third, China became ready to withdraw from NEFA. And fourth, occupied area in Aksai Chin should be allowed to remain in China only. Nehru answered these 4 demands on 27th of October. Nehru once again suggested friendly relations. He asked China to return on previous boundaries, and third, Nehru rejected Zhou's offer. Again, on 14th of November, the war resumes. 19th November was the time when China reached all its claimed lines, and on 21st of November, China announced unilateral ceasefire. The result of the war? Well, China achieved its aim to secure its boundaries. Aksai Chin was now in de facto control of China. Aksai Chin's area of about 38,000 square kilometers came to China and is still disputed. India abandoned its forward policy after the war, which was introduced in the beginning of 1961. Ceasefire line after the war was stabilized into line of actual control. China made a huge harm to India and was able to capture a chunk of land. Now the question arises, why did India suffer a setback in the battle? Well, the answers are: Number 1. India wanted to maintain cordial relations and healthy diplomacy. and it deployed just 2 military divisions in conflict zones. Number 2. It was not prepared for a sudden Chinese attack. Only 20,000 Indian soldiers had to face off the 80,000 Chinese soldiers. Number 3. India didn't get any help from any Western powers such as the USA and UK at that time. India learned to give equal importance to diplomacy and military power. Not only weapons and ammunitions, but also military infrastructure is important for any war. More investment in military was required. India also required to form strong foreign alliances. These were the learnings from the war. Thank you.